Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Warhammer 40k Battlesector. A game with, well, quite the main menu screen. This is one epic piece of art. But what is Battlesector? Well, it is a top-down, turn-based strategy game set in the 41st millennia. This is a 40k game, and a brand new one at that, with the new logo, which, I gotta say, I prefer the older ones, but it gets the message across, right? It's a bit too clean for my taste, but we're not here to talk about 40k per se, we're here to talk about this game specifically. So, this will be a first impressions video. I'm going to tell you roughly what the game is about, give you some of the basic elements of the game, share with you some basic knowledge about it, but this is not a review. I have not finished the game, I'm not very good at the game, and yeah, this is just for some basic information, nothing beyond that. So, let's begin with the options menu, as we always do. We have sound, camera, graphics control, and UI, and miscellaneous, i.e. language selection. An alright amount of languages. So, sound effects, 3 different sliders, that's fine. Camera with a decent amount of options. Graphics, motion blur on or off. Thankfully, I'm not going to have a headache playing this game. I hate motion blur, so for me that's very good. UI particles, FX, max frame rate, and quality. This isn't a particularly graphically demanding game. You're going to see when we actually start playing it, it gets the job done. This is fine. Usually I would complain that there's not more options, but this is fine. And then controls UI, you can rebind basically all the controls, that's good. And then that's it. Not much to see in the options menu. So, now, let's go and load into a game that I have played, or a save that I've made, and you might notice from the UI elements that it is blood-themed, and indeed the entire game is centered around the Blood Angels. Thankfully, it's not the Ultra Smurfs. Look, I like the Ultramarines. I actually do. I actually like the Ultramarines, but bit overused, aren't they? I mean, they are extremely overused in every piece of medium ever. It's good to see a focus on something else, even though we're looking at probably the second most overused chapter in media in general, and that being the Blood Angels, but at least they have some interesting character to them. Enough of insulting the Ultramarines. This is the game. It is not hex-based, which I think is a missed opportunity. We have the game Civilization, Civilization 5, Civilization 6, and so on. These games have unequivocally demonstrated a fact known by mathematicians for a very, very long time, that a hexagon is almost the perfect shape when it comes to building. You use less materials, and in video games, it is almost perfect for turn-based, hex-based combat. Why? Because with a cube, or with a rectangle, or whatever, you only have 4 sides. This means that flanking maneuvers like that are kind of difficult. Now, although you can still pull it off, I'll show you. I think it's best to start playing the game, and then we're going to get into it. I'm going to start with the bulk of my army down here, which is the army I've deployed for this mission. You can customize your army, you can add new units to it, a whole bunch of stuff, we'll get into that later. But for now, is this game an XCOM-like kind of game? No, you control entire squads of units, but in its sort of view, turn-based perspective, I guess in some respect you could call this the 40k XCOM, but it's really not that, if we're being honest. Anyways, let's move one unit of Blood Angel Marines here and see what we can do. So, we can shoot, and here's a problem. See, because this is not hex-based, these blocks affect aiming. So it's 1, 2, 3. You can do it another way, 1, 2, 3, but you'd get the same result, right? With hexes, I feel like it's a little bit more accurate and true to life, because your bullets aren't going up and down like this. Or at least, they're not literally traveling that way. When you shoot, you pretty much shoot directly at the enemy, but calculations are done with these blocks, and it's... Ugh. it's not the prettiest. But at any rate, let's actually see how the game plays. In terms of the actual gameplay, this doesn't actually affect the game that badly, and it's not too big of a deal. So, there are currently, as far as I've seen, two factions. Tyranids and the Blood Angels. The Tyranids have their own units. Mostly I've been fighting the Hormagaunts. They do have these Termagants as well, but they're effectively, I mean, more or less, they're sort of similar, right? These are slightly tougher than these. They do have other units as well that I know of. I've seen Warriors, which are terrifying, but we have the Blood Angels to talk about, and this is the main faction of the campaign is the Blood Angels, though you can play as the Tyranids in Skirmish as well, and maybe you unlock their campaign later down the line. I don't know, like I said, I haven't finished the game, I haven't played that much of it. So, let's say you want to shoot the Tyranids. There is a cover system as well, but again, against Tyranids, we are mostly going to be fighting in melee against them, and taking cover against a melee unit isn't exactly viable. So our percentage to hit chance is 75%, as you can see when you mouse over. The different green bars represent unit health, and you basically, I mean, this is the majority of the gameplay, is you take your units, you position them like so, and you shoot the enemy. Luckily, you can move multiple units at the same time. The game is really good at handling that. You can also shoot with one unit, shoot with the other pretty much immediately. There's not much delay, so the flow of the actual turn is pretty darn nice. There are also a variety of abilities, a variety of command abilities that you can also use, hero characters, different units, different weapons. We're going to get into all of that slowly, but for now, let's take a look at the basics. So if you want to shoot at an enemy, the same goes for melee, but the calculations are a little bit different. We have a 75% chance to hit them. This does not mean that we have a 25% chance to miss the enemy. No, this is a 75% chance for each of the shots from their bolters to hit. How many shots do we have? 40, as you can see to the right of the percentage to hit. So that means we're going to fire 40 shots at them. Each shot will deal between 3 to 5 damage, and each shot will have 75% chance to hit. This is actually good. Compared to over here, 65%, a little bit worse. So I think this is a shot worth taking. And we fire. And there we go. We've killed off 4 out of the 8. Wait, no. Yes, we've killed 5 out of the 8. Sorry, I can't count. We've killed 5 out of the 8 Xenos here, and that was a pretty great shot. Now, in terms of unit stats, movement, and all of that, I already talked about the HP system. Each and every one of the soldiers has his own separate HP that they will lose or gain, depending on what you're doing, throughout the course of battle, and we saw how that works there. They also have evasion, which lowers the chance of enemy attacks. This value is only effective if the unit has moved since its last turn. I'll get into this. Hunkering down and not moving is heavily discouraged in this game. For most units in most situations, but again, we'll talk about that. These guys also have the red thirst, but it's Blood Angels, right? They also have armor, which, as you'd expect, it reduces damage. Its effectiveness is decreased by armor-piercing weaponry, obviously. Then, these are 2 separate stats, and it's very important to recognize this. You have movement and action. Most units have 1 action point and 5, 6, 7, depends, movement points. Some units have 2 action points, like Sergeant Carleon here. We've pretty much used up all our movement points, but we have 2 action points on this guy, and what can we do with 2 action points? Well, we can use some of our abilities, or we can attack. Unfortunately, the enemy is currently out of range, so that means that we should go to Overwatch. So, you take a momentum penalty when you do that, and momentum is, apart from the basic stats of health, armor, and stuff like that, is probably the most important stat in this game, like I said, other than the basic ones, health, armor, action, damage, and stuff like that. Momentum, as you can see here, is something that you gain as you fight and move. You will lose momentum when you use certain abilities, and you also lose momentum when you don't do anything. So if, for example, not this turn, but next turn, this unit overwatches, and there's nothing that comes in its cone of fire, and the unit is just resting there, it will lose 10 momentum. Why is that important? You want to get to 100 momentum as soon as possible. Now, for the Tyranids, it's actually really easy for them to get to 100 momentum, which I suppose is kind of lore-friendly as well. They go from 0 to 100 very easily and are kind of easily inspired into suicidal actions. The Marines takes a bit more doing for them. So, when momentum reaches 100, this unit will surge. This unit will gain momentum, or this unit gains momentum, when an enemy model is killed based on the proximity to the enemy. The closer you are, the better, of course. Momentum, the more you have it, will increase critical chance, but when you surge, you gain bonuses to all sorts of things. It's kind of like the ultra ability of the unit. However, getting your unit to surge is rather difficult, but as you can see, this unit killed a bunch of enemies, and it now has 15 momentum. Problem is, it's going to lose some of it as we keep advancing because it can't just keep killing stuff, but regardless of that fact. Let's go over here and see what this is. So, Defend Brother Arthero, Eturo, sorry, against Tyranid assault while he completes his work. Harvest the Fallen Blood Angel's Gene Seed. Okay. How do we best defend the good brother here? Well, let's say we move over here, and this harvesting this will take 1 AP. I probably don't want to do that. Probably want to shoot these things twice, but we'll get to that in a second. How much HP does the good brother have? 150. He can take a hit or two, probably. Okay, now we fired over there, so there's nothing left to do with this unit. These are aggressors. Aggressors, as you might expect, there's only 3 of them, but they have some exceptionally powerful weapons, and, well, I think we're going to fire the Fragstorm grenades over there. Now we're going to fire them probably with this unit. Cancel that. We are going to use the Bolt Storm gauntlets, and I'm going to fire that way. Now check this out. It was a bad angle. It's uphill and they're sort of behind all of this. It's difficult to hit. That is one incredibly powerful weapon. Range between 1 and 3, but optimal 1. As you can see, you also get that bit of information there. Base accuracy is pretty darn good. Base damage is terrible, but this thing fires, I think, 2 or 3 times the amount of bullets a bolter kills. Bolter fires, sorry. Pretty incredible stuff. Let's continue shooting, because, I mean, there's precious little else we can do. I don't think we can fire with a bolt pistol over here, so we're just going to overwatch, let's say, there. And with you, 35% chance to hit, 65 to hit. Okay, let's take that shot. And there we go, we've completely wiped out this unit, thus earning a alright amount of points. So, we also could have gone with Tactical Precision. Cooldown 1 affects single ally within 2 tiles. Yeah, I probably should have done that, honestly. But that's fine. Alright, let's use the grenades. And there we go. You know, it's a little bit of damage. Lengthy cooldown, but that is all fine. And we're going to overwatch this way with our commander. Now, do we have anyone else in this army to move? No. Which means the good brother Eturo will have to fire his bolter against some rather tough enemies, and, well, he's going to do a little bit of damage. He's going to basically, he's doing this to reduce the amount of damage that he takes next turn. And I think he did a fairly alright job of that. So, let's see. No more movement, no more action. There we go, next turn. Now this guy will have the opportunity to attack something. I think he did literally 0 damage. And there he goes. Right, now these guys actually have rifles. But so do I. Let's see. Alright, that wasn't too bad. They probably have some terrible percentage chances to hit there, because considering the giant rock in the way. And yeah, this is not ideal. We're supposed to be protecting this guy, but you know, we'll get there eventually. We're on our way, don't worry. Okay, there we go. So, you've seen the gist of the combat, that's it. As you can see, cover is important in that you're using the terrain, but this is not the typical sort of XCOM cover system where you go behind heavy cover and camp there until the enemy suicides into you, or also camp some other heavy cover spot and then you blow up their cover and continue firing or something along those lines. This is more in the sense of using terrain around you, and I think the game is a lot better for it. There's plenty of heavy cover shooters around, but this sort of, I feel like, encapsulates 40k a little bit more. Especially the Ultramarine, or the Space Marines, Blood Angels or any other chapter. Again, with some exceptions, most of them don't just sit and wait. Imperial Fists being one of those examples. They, matter of fact, make it their point to sit and wait and build fortifications, but most other chapters drop in and are very aggressive, very mobile. They move and sort of take out enemies on the move as they progress, which is exactly what you're doing over here. So, let us buff one of our units, for example, this very one here, and let's fire our bolter off that way. Once again, we have a 95% chance to hit these units over here. I feel like I should move up here on higher ground and then target the slightly stronger unit with the new and buffed Blood Angels. Lovely. There you go. And then we can move, well, we can move these units this way in order to be able to get shots on this thing. Now, I'm going to show you something. There is a half wall here between us and them. That means they're slightly in cover, as indicated above their heads. This is a very interesting way of doing the cover system. Again, they are not stuck behind this cover. They actually have their backs exposed to me, but they're still technically in cover because I still have to shoot above this and land shots there. They are in cover. It's just a way of doing the cover system so that you don't have to stick your units behind cover. You can be a lot more mobile and a lot more flexible. I really like it. As a result, I only have about 50% chance to hit, but we're going to take it because, I mean, we don't have much else to do in the area, and as you can see, this was not great. Though, we are getting some nice hits because of our momentum.
The blood waits.
And then, obviously, we have Brother What's-His-Face over here, who is going to do that, and then this thing has 7 HP. That's fine. I'd rather harvest this thing because this is pretty harmless. Alright. There we go. And then we fired with this unit, we fired with this unit. Let's move up the other... Well, no, let's move up these guys first. And then I can show you what they can do. Obviously, enemy zone of control is a thing if you are right next to a unit. By the way, this constitutes as right next to as well. You don't have to be... I mean, they are squares, but they kind of work like hexes occasionally, in that a diagonal square like this also counts as next to a unit. So if were this unit a melee unit, and I tried to run away from them right now, they could have... although they would have a free attack on me when I do that. There are some units that can negate this, there are some ways you can stop the enemy unit from doing this, but generally these are the rules. And let's show you what a Boltstorm Gauntlet could do at close range. So we are firing 72 rounds.
Thin their numbers, they will not overwhelm us.
Yeah. Probably the most overpowered thing about these aggressors is they get a free reaction shot when a melee unit attacks them. That's 72 rounds, point blank range, almost a guaranteed hit of reaction. I had these stand in front of a bunch of melee attacking Nid units that just kept charging them, and they would not take any damage. As soon as an attack would land, or would attempt to land, they would just raise their gauntlets and just blast everything in front of them. Ridiculously powerful units, very fun to use. Speaking of very powerful units and very fun to use units, we have the Assault Squad, and, well, how am I going to use the Assault Squad? Well, let's move these guys up, because it's pretty much the only thing they can do. I believe there is a Tyranid unit over here, so let's move. Ah, there they are. These guys actually have Overwatch on, as I briefly saw. So I'm wondering how to best deal with that. The cooldown on these jump packs is 2, and I would rather not use them right now. So why don't we move up here very carefully. Hopefully don't trigger their Overwatch. We did not. And then, although this is a very low percentage chance to hit, there is no reloading in the game, so I feel like this is a free attempt, basically. And there we go, we got it. There was barely any HP there for us to worry about. Now, this enemy is unfortunately out of range, but I suppose we could Overwatch, though there isn't much point in doing that with this unit, but they might as well. There's actually, I can cancel Overwatch. Yeah, they'll take a momentum penalty at the end of the turn. Let's not Overwatch. They won't be able to hit anything either way. But I will move the captain forward, though. There we go. Alright, next turn. Yeah. Okay, so they've arrived. This, I'm assuming, is a... Well, they are close, but this, I'm assuming, is not the best distance to be doing something like this. And the Overwatch got them. Good. Wonderful. Now they're going to Overwatch. Alright, plenty of Overwatching happening. That's all fine. Now, this is what I wanted to show you. These units can jump. Unfortunately, they got shot at as they were jumping down. I thought that might not trigger the Overwatch. It did, but take some of this. Very fun. This is a very fun game. I fully endorse it. Okay. Let's go up, right up in their faces, basically, because there's no more Overwatching to worry about. Let's go up here. Let's go up here. Over here, and then you can collect the Gene Seed, and then let's go over here, because we have the high ground. Yeah, I don't think actually... Oh yeah, these units might not be able to collect the Gene Seed. Maybe I have to do it with this guy here. Okay, well I don't want you to use any actions this turn, so you might as well use all your movement points and your action points to get down there. Okay. Now, I think I've showed you a decent amount of the gameplay and how all of the things work. Let's talk about the game visually. It's not the prettiest game ever, obviously. It's kind of simplistic, but it works. You can zoom in fairly well. The skybox is a little bit ugly, unfortunately, when you do, but zooming in like this doesn't only give you a good look at your units, which, again, graphically aren't the most impressive thing ever, but, you know, it gets the job done. It also gives you a good idea of what you're actually shooting at, so... From here, as you can see, shooting these guys down here is not that easy. On the other hand, from here... Yeah, that's a decent shot. It's a bit far away, but it's a decent shot. So, let's fire. like I said, pretty decent, eh? Alright,
Battle line squad ready.
I think that's more or less enough. Why these guys have such a low percentage chance to hit, I don't understand, though. So this is 65. I feel like it should be more. I feel like it should be towards the high 70s or the 80s. Well, there is a way to fix that, so...
My vengeance will be fine.
Let's do it. Oh, mind you, these guys have a 65% chance to hit as well, so... I suppose these guys are fairly dodgy. Fire. And I can use you for overwatching, so... Mind you, I can use these guys for overwatching as well. Ah, never mind. This is cooler. Let's finish them off the cool way. I mean, just beautiful. Look at that.
Affirmative.
Alright. Let's get our units a bit forward. And that's about it for this turn.
The enemy thinks it can stay beyond our reach. The Sanguinary Priesthood serves the will of the chapter.
Okay, so this mission might go on for a little while longer, though it is one of the earlier missions, so I feel like I should be able to complete it relatively soon. We're just going to have to collect this here and this here, I think, and we're done. There's not much else going on over here. Nope, there it is, like just a giant flat plain, so I feel like even that could be interesting for combat. Okay, shall we split up? Famous last words. I feel like you should go on a scouting run just to see what we're dealing with. Alright, yeah, so far, let's split up our forces. Get these guys in cover. These guys in a relatively good position. Get you down there. You can go around like that, I suppose. And okay, Venomthrope. Along with some regular poor infantry, but I guess this is their equivalent to some of my heavier stuff, eh? Alright. Alright. We do have a fair amount of firepower. Let's see what happens. Oh, they... Yeah, this is... Yeah, okay. Well, probably the ideal way of engaging them. I've never fought this enemy before, so I don't know exactly what their abilities and quirks are. I see that they're spewing some garbage on the ground, so I'm assuming it's not good to stand in it, but other than that, I'm not sure what else they can do.
I am ready to help. We fight and we
Alright. Let's get you in closer. Though not too close. And then... Toxic Presence. Poison melee, poison range, poison melee, poison range, basic range. Okay, so yeah, don't stand in it. Got it. Well, unless, you know, unless you got no other choice in the matter, I suppose. Alright, let's move everything forward. Let's buff, actually, let's get you there, and then you can buff the guys over there. Ooh, now have a 60% chance to hit. I feel like that's a lot better. Yeah, it's good, but it's a good start. You know what I mean? Like it's a good start. I feel like that's what we've achieved here. There's no real reason to heal anything yet, and yeah, so I think we're just going to overwatch there, and you are going to overwatch there.
Battle line squad ready.
Okay, that's this flank all done and dusted. Over here, I'm more or less equally terrified of my enemy.
For the Emperor.
But we will approach them.
Battle line squad ready. Close combat support.
Actually, no. Overwatch like there.
They will regret coming this close.
And I think you can fire that rocket over there. It's not going to do a lot of damage, but yeah, every bit helps. Okay, now let's see what happens. This is pretty much the gameplay, right? This you get a variety of missions. There is a story mode. The story happens after the return of Rabute Gilliman, or Robute as they call him. It's one of those things, I've read the name a million times, I've rarely heard people actually pronounce it, so yeah. It's, oh, by the way, this is why these things are amazing. Look at that! It took no damage, like almost no damage. Truly, truly amazing. As far as this is concerned, I'm a little bit more, well, tiny bit more concerned, but okay, there we go. Actually, that did a load of damage, but I guess it was the ideal scenario, them walking into an ambush. And we do have some more nids coming up, but that's alright. We can deal with them.
We are the guns.
Okay, got rid of them.
Heavy fire support.
See, what I'm wondering is if I stand on this, it gives me a negative thingamajig. If I walk through it, it also gives me the same modifier. Unfortunate, but I do have ways around it. Not particularly great ways around it, but I do have ways around it.
With haste.
Over it, more specifically, I guess, but you get the idea. Ally within a vicinity of 1, okay. Overwatch like that, and you're pretty much done, and you can just stand behind like that, I suppose. Or I could have you go around and try and pick this up that way, but neither option all that amazing, I feel like. Okay, and then let's have you go up here. Actually, I don't know.
They shall know death.
Let's get you to finish them off. Yeah. And I think you can still jump down here, can't you? Yeah. Oh, I've jumped onto poison. I thought it was just here and not here. Big oof. Big oof, but it is what it is, I suppose. We can't do much more than that. Yeah, we're going to take some unnecessary damage here. There's basically just one extra thing I want to show you about the game. Oh, that is a lot of units. There's just one more thing I want to show you about the game, and that is the army management / upgrading system. Like I said, there are different things you can manage about your army. First of all, the units that you deploy and the units that you have in your army. So you can have a pretty ridiculous amount of units in the actual army itself, but you can only deploy a limited number. This number is... Jesus. This number is limited by 2 things. Points and unit cap. Unit cap, fairly obvious, you can't have more than an X amount of units per mission, or in each mission. This will depend on the mission itself, of course. And the points is also maybe a little bit less obvious, but also fairly self-explanatory. There is only a certain amount of points you can spend on a mission. For example, these heavy units cost 135 points. The assault squad costs, I think, 75, and the regular marine squad costs 60, or something along those lines. Those are roughly the points for the game. So, let us move up. There's no overwatching, right? There is no overwatching, okay. And then I would love for you to go all the way down there. For you to go all the way there. And vroom. Yep, that is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, let's just continue firing. I feel like I put these in a little bit too close. Yeah, I actually have a better shot of shooting the ones far out. Well, either way is fine. And then I can actually get Brother Eturo over here, and well, I could heal this unit, but I don't see much point in doing that. So why don't we have you finish those guys off and take a stab at them. You can use a chainsword. Exceptionally powerful weapon. And unfortunately, I don't want to have you cross yet because of the entire poison thing, but... well, you can get ready to cross, I suppose. But that's more or less it. And then you can move over here.
When the day is darkest, we provide control.
There's also a next unused unit button. Fairly useful. Let's just confirm. Of course, if they don't do anything for a turn, they do lose momentum, but... please don't kill my unit. It's very precious to me. Ooh, zone of control. Oh, that's good. I feel like that's very good. That's considerably less good, but it's not that much damage. I feel like we can deal with it. Alright, is that everything? That is indeed everything. Poisoned. Okay. Let's move over there. Let's jump here. Chainswords. I do want to know, do you get poisoned because you've done the chainswords thing? You've technically entered the tile. There is more stuff over here, wow. Did you get poisoned? No, you didn't. Huh. Oh, fair enough, I suppose. Okay, and... bloop. This brother can just leave. Oh, that was an unfortunate turn of events. I've completely forgotten about that ability of theirs. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing you can do when you're in melee range like this. You can fall back. So it gives you certain stats. It gives you base damage as well, so you do a little bit of base damage as well. So you fire and move backwards, effectively. I'm overcomplicating things. Right click to select an enemy, left mouse to, yeah. So fall back from there. And you see they didn't do any damage, and we get to fire a little bit. Wasn't that much, but I feel like we did an okay job. Unfortunately, these guys have nowhere to fall back to. I feel like 2 sets of shots from a bolter could... or 1 attack from a bolter could finish the job here, alright. Excellent.
We fight and we die for the Imperium.
Go to the next line. Unit, I really didn't expect this to last that long, but... it is what it is.
Your orders.
Shall we, yeah, let's shoot at them. Why not? And we didn't kill it. It's kind of sad. Right, we're all going to take a bunch of damage. Mostly due to our own stupidity, but what's done is done. This one takes 30 for some reason. Not a fan of that. So I'm just hoping they don't have the wits to prioritize the mission target and kill my escort person, or the person I'm supposed to be escorting. They didn't. Okay. And then we could just run away from here. Okay, that'll be pretty much the mission done. Way lengthier than I expected it to be, but I feel like you got a good idea of what the game is about. For good 40k games are not exactly easy to come by these days. Mostly. Oftentimes they are cash grabs. Oftentimes there are many problems with 40k games that, well, you know, are fairly difficult to get over and to handle. They range from just being outright terrible games to being mostly unfinished games given not a lot of time in the oven, as it were, to sometimes being just, you know, relatively bad games with 40k skins over them. There are just a few good examples in the last decade or so of good 40k games. Dawn of War series, up until Dawn of War 3, which some people like, but you know, I would argue it isn't really a 40k game. Gladius was and is a phenomenal 40k game. Space Marine was a great 40k game, but other than those, we don't have that many. This is a good 40k game. It really, really is. You can see by the Steam reviews. By the way, the link to the Steam page of the game will be in the description down below. It is good. Most of the missions, although very heavy in combat, as you can see, do have a little bit of a feel of puzzles most of the time, in my modest opinion. The reason being, you don't actually get to choose that many aspects of a mission, and by that I mean, you get to deploy your army, but you don't get to really choose where you deploy it most of the time. I mean, as you saw, I started, where was it? Down here, and I didn't really get much choice in the way of, actually, where did I start? I started more like this way, yeah. I didn't really get much movement options, and then, as you advance, this level sort of feels like it's set up like a puzzle, and you're supposed to complete it with taking the minimal amount of losses and doing the maximum amount of damage, which isn't, you know, necessarily wrong. There's nothing wrong with setting up a game like that. It just gives it a little bit of a more simplistic feel, even though the way combat is done, and the way calculations are done, and the skill cap for a game like this is surprisingly high. I think at first glance you might be guided into or lulled into a false sense of security. Oh, this is a fairly simple game, right? You just, you know, it's hex-based, you move units around, you shoot stuff, easy. Yeah, but there's a lot of abilities, there's a lot of different factors to consider. The terrain, the range, the accuracy, the damage, the ability. Oh, I already said the abilities, but you get the point. There's a lot of factors to consider. Plus, there's also factors to consider that are kind of outside of the actual immediate battle itself. How do you set up your units? How do you upgrade your units? Many things that that need to be considered when actually planning for the next mission. And yeah, it's a solid game. What problems do I have with it? Well, we've gotten to the negative part of the video finally, like 30-something minutes in. The negative part of the video is this. It's a bit expensive, right? This is an expensive game, and although there is a lot of content, like I said, there is a campaign, there is a skirmish mode, there is multiplayer, it doesn't necessarily give off that expensive game vibe. You can get Gladius for almost the same price, maybe even cheaper depending on whether it's on sale or not, or what's going on with it. You can get Gladius for a ridiculously low amount of money for a game of its size. And there you have a bunch of factions. You have a whole map, a whole variety and everything, and I would argue more replayability, especially due to, like I said, the different factions and stuff. Yeah, it's a bit pricey, so mostly due to the price point alone, I would have to say you might want to wait for a sale when it comes to picking this game up. Other than that, other than the price point being a bit high for my taste for a game like this is great. This is genuinely great. This is way better than you would perhaps expect it, and I say that given the fact that the game feels, on first glance, for me at least, a little bit simplistic. It feels like a little bit, well, this is almost an insult at this point, but it kind of, on first glance, feels a little bit like those mobile games of 40k that you have on the Play Store or wherever. It's not. It's really well thought out, it's detailed, it's in-depth. Wow, that was extremely powerful. Nice. And there you go, we can surge with this unit now and give it 1 extra AP. Huzzah! Hey, at least I managed to demonstrate the surge mechanic. There you go. So we can move up, and we can finish them. Lovely. Gonna have some Overwatch firing. It's not gonna hit a lot, but there we go. Oh, I forgot about Battlefleet Gothic. That was another really good game, but you know, 40k, but not ground combat, obviously, fleet-based, but still, pretty darn good game. And in retrospect, you know, thinking about all those games, having this one put up there at a sort of, well, you know, not sort of, but at a really steep price point, doesn't feel like it quite fits in. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like it gives you less for the same amount of money as some bigger games, and it is a little bit unfortunate, but that does not detract from the fact that this is still a good game. So, with the mission being done, we haven't lost a single unit. That was very, very good. You can also customize the difficulty for this game. I haven't talked about that. You can customize a fair amount, honestly, and I really like that. But back to my original point, graphically it's not the most impressive thing ever. Replayability and content-wise, there is a big amount of missions. As you can see, you go through sort of the planet here. Age of Crimson Dawn, it's called. You have HQ upgrades, which gives you a variety of abilities for your respective heroes. And then you have army management, which, as you can see here, you can just add more units. So let's say you want to add like another unit of, or another assault squad, or maybe like another unit of Blood Angels or something, Blood Angel Marines. You can do that. They also gain medals for the different missions that they were on, which I think is very cool. But yeah, this is basically it. So now let's save the game right here and go back to the main menu. Yeah, it's not bad. In Skirmish Mode, as you can see, let's open up Skirmish Mode and actually showcase that as well. You can replay a campaign mission, or you can just begin a skirmish. Tyranids of Blood Angels. That's all you get. There's several maps to choose from. You can customize it however you want, but actually a fair amount of maps to choose from, but you know. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's good. It's not bad, but can't help the feeling that you're not getting all that much for your money. So, final verdict, it's a pretty good game. It's a good strategy game. It's very tactical, the missions in the campaign feel a little bit like puzzles, but that's not necessarily a good thing. You get a really good sense of accomplishment when you finish a mission. You're like, yeah, I solved the tactical situation. That being said, it doesn't offer the most amount of replayability in the campaign because of the way missions are structured. Only 2 factions, so ultimately I would not pay this price for this game. The asking price, which, actually, you know what, let's not beat around the bush, let's go to Steam right now and figure, and I'll tell you exactly how much the game is in my regional equivalent. And the game, in my country at least, for me, is 33 euros, actually 34 euros. That's quite a bit. Obviously, it might be different for you. I know prices tend to vary heavily on Steam. In Russia, games are a lot cheaper. I think Norway has some very weird prices for games. Sometimes they're a lot cheaper, sometimes they're a lot more expensive. The UK is a bit weird. Some places some places Steam treats currencies a bit strangely, where euros and pounds equals to dollars, which it isn't. So yeah, it'll sort of depend on you, but $34 for a game like this is quite a lot. I would wait for it to be at least 50% off, and then I would consider getting it. I guess it is important to mention the previous game in this series, Warhammer 40k Sanctus Reach, which was in many ways similar. Sanctus Reach was fairly well reviewed. It came out on January 19th, 2017, and it offered, well, a lot of the similar things that you see here, although some of the units obviously were different, and it was focusing on the Space Wolves rather than the Blood Angels. But if you liked Sanctus Reach, if you loved it, this is more of the same, with some innovations, some new units, some new abilities, different campaign and all of that. And it is definitely worth it, but Sanctus Reach is 28 euros still today, so these games are a little bit pricey for my pocket, but they are pretty darn good. Obviously developed by Straylight Entertainment, published by Slytherin Limited. There we go. That'll be it for this video and for my impressions of this game. It's good, it's fun, but a bit pricey. Ultimately, it's up to you whether you want to get it or not. Certainly recommend that you try it out. If you can find a demo or something along those lines, depending on where you pick your games up, give it a go, because I think when you see people play it and when you sort of react to some basic gameplay footage, you might be lulled into a false sense of security, or you might get the impression that it's kind of simplistic and sort of dumbed down. It's not. It's depending on the difficulty, it can be quite a tough game, and there's quite a lot of things involved in combat, so yeah. Ultimately, this has been way longer than I intended it to be, but I guess it is what it is. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe below if you enjoyed the video, and I'm very glad that I have a chance to review, or not review, but do a first impressions on a 40k game. Not often we get good ones around, and Hell is by far my favourite sci-fi universe, so there we go. I will see you all next time. Until then, have fun, take care, and bye-bye.